Hello, and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. It is very likely that you are listening to this show without intro music because we felt that it was urgent enough that we just get this up. So there's no mixing. So forgive us if our voice levels sound a little bit weird. At some point, we are going to have this edited and whatnot and then reload it. But because Amy and I came across this issue, we thought that it was important enough to do a drop-in show on as another Amazon PSA. So this is Penny Sansevere with my ever awesome host. We have formally called her a co-host, but she is a host. And Amy Cornell. Sorry, that just was so weird. Here's the thing. Amazon is just, oh my gosh. Amazon is the company that we love and we also hate them at the same time. So Amazon is really cracking down on all the things, and calling your book a bestseller needs to be accompanied by proof. And this kind of started with Amazon, really kind of going after authors who had the bestseller flag on their book. So Amazon bestseller, or any kind of Amazon bestseller. And it has extended to, be careful what you put in your book description or what you put on your book cover, because Amazon's going to ask for proof. And Amy, I've just sent you, and when we were in the green room, we were talking this through. I just sent you another screenshot of a book that has only 9 ratings. It just released, and it's a number. There's a little circle that says #1 Amazon bestseller. And at some point, I realized that there's a book published every, 8 seconds in this country. But at some point, Amazon's going to come knocking on this author's door. And by the way, if you click on the other books, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing, but I am kind of laughing. If you click on the other books in this author series, she has Amazon #1 bestseller on all of her books. I feel like I should look her up and be like, sweetie, you better be prepared to show proof. So that's the thing with this, is that Amazon, if you say, I've sold, there's another book sample that I sent Amy. On her book cover, it says over 100,000 copies sold. You had better be prepared to show proof. Now, you may say to me, well, but it's Amazon. Will they know how much I sold? Sure. Be prepared to show proof anyway with all of these things. Because Amy, you've seen this too when you've seen people make big, impressive statements in their book descriptions. Yes. And then sometimes on their book covers as well, right?
Yeah, we've definitely seen awards. Authors love to say, I've won X number of awards, but it's interesting. It definitely stands out. We've come across authors that have claimed that they've won awards, but then they don't cite the awards anywhere. Which is, I would say, a red flag for sure. Right. There's no reason not to. One, that's just kind of lazy, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of that going around. And I find it interesting that, I guess, again, it's very hard for Amazon to regulate all of the things all of the time, but it doesn't surprise me that this was in the pipeline and they're going to crack down on it even more, because they're really particular about this when you submit A+ content. And in my experience, they 100% will push back if they think it's not cited appropriately on the website. And they also we were discussing, Penny, and for all of you listening, technically for A+ content, they even have timelines. So if you're going to put that you have an award and include the seal and all those things and the logo, you actually have a timeline limit that you have to work within. So if you won an award for your book 5 years ago, technically Amazon says you're not allowed to put that in your A+ content now. It's too old. So they really, it's interesting that they've got these very strict parameters for keeping timely awards and other credentials for A+ content, that it's like, okay, well, now it's moving up the page into the description, into the about section, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if you're listening to this and you say, "Well, I don't have anything on my book cover," it does go beyond that. So I would just keep
Mm-hmm.
it, keep it all in a file and be prepared to present this to Amazon, upload it. The danger of not playing by Amazon's rules, as we know, is that you could lose your ability to sell on Amazon. And again, Amazon's a company that we have a love-hate relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you really got to be careful. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to do this drop-in episode, because it's important enough to mention that if you have these things on your book page, just make sure that you have proof for them. And as Amy pointed out, rightly so, um, I didn't realize that there was a time limit for, I mean,
Right.
that seems kind of crazy, right? Like, what if you have a book that has been like where you have multiple editions of this book? And we've worked with some books that are like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Multiple editions of this book. And like 5 years ago, you won, I don't know, 18 awards for it. So you can't mention that anymore?
According to A+ content, no. And maybe you could get around it by saying it was for an earlier edition or the first edition or something like that. They might work with you on that. I will say, every once in a while, when something is flagged and Amazon asks for more proof, whether or not that person, who knows where they belong in the big scheme of things, like which cog they are, but you can kind of explain, you do get a chance to explain. And that's for A+ content. I can't speak for, claims made in descriptions or on book covers or anything like that. I don't know how much special attention you'll actually get. But Penny, what's interesting, like we mentioned, so awards, review outlets, things like that, most of these places actually have official logos. They've got a way to, and they provide those to authors.
Yeah.
When you win an award, get a review, they say, here's what you can use, here are the files you can utilize, here's how you can use them. Do you have any thoughts on why Amazon hasn't done something more official, since obviously they have their own bestseller lists? They've got a lot of their own Amazon first reads. They have a lot of branding things that they slap their Amazon logo on for books. Like, so do you have any thoughts on why they haven't taken the next step to actually make those public, but in an official way?
No, that's a really good question. So here's the deal. Amazon is, I mean, authors are often an afterthought for Amazon, even though I just like to point out, Amazon, y'all built your empire on authors. But I just don't know. I mean, Amazon, and I ran amok with this topic. I was telling a neighbor about this topic this morning. I mean, Amazon is getting into so many different areas. In fact, Amazon next year is going to be, um, they are now pharmacy benefit managers for a number of insurance companies. And you can look up we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, what that means. But it's a big, big, big money. It's going to be a big money maker for Amazon. And they're, as we know, they experimented, I think, with travel. I'm not really sure where that went. So authors have often been an afterthought for them. And I just think that it doesn't feel like it when Amazon's, bearing down on you and like, well, why do I have to make this change? Or how long is it going to take to get my book live or whatever? But I don't, I think they should. I think they should have a team that just looks at, because, Amazon likes to make money. Like authors would, I have been a bestseller on Amazon. If Amazon offered me a roll of stamps for $5, like little gold stamps that I could put on my books, you betcha I would get by. I would buy up so many of those. I
Right? Or even a small fee for the rights to use the image. You can use our digital image if for the low price of $5.
that's a great idea. Amazon, if you're listening, you owe Amy a percentage of that idea, just so we're clear. But
I'll just
yeah,
sit here holding grass waiting to retire.
No. Know it. But just so you know, I mean, this is Amazon is always watching. Just make sure, and not, if you have, and I would never assume that our listeners are fudging the details on their Amazon book pages or their book covers. But so I'm going to say this and not, well, if you have legitimately won, because we have an author who's like, I have 15 contests. Like, I think we were doing a consultation for this person. And I was like, that's great. But Amazon's going to want to know when you won those. Is it for the same book? Because I've known authors to say, well, I wrote books in a series and I won awards for each of the books. And I have 6 books in the series. So in my book description, it says author of 6 award-winning books or something. It's like, wait a minute. It's true, but it's also confusing. And I think that's also what Amazon's trying to avoid too. So
yeah, that makes sense. God.
Yeah. So it's, and here's another really interesting thing. Sorry, this is a little bit of a side journey, but it's also about Amazon. On the book that I sent you the text link for, where she has #1 Amazon bestseller like emblazoned on the cover, you have to be so careful with the details on Amazon. Her name, her middle initial is listed both at the top of the Amazon page, so where it says by author, and then it also says her middle initial towards the bottom where it says, about the author. After the middle initial, she forgot the period after the middle initial, and Amazon cannot figure out that they're the same author.
Yep.
So
isn't that wild?
Is that not the craziest thing? And that's why we always tell you the details matter. And I think I may just, not that I have the time because I'm flying out to romance writers to speak, but if I get a chance, I may write this author and just be like, the details matter. Everything matters. And especially be careful with the things that you're putting on your Amazon book page, because we do not want you to lose the ability to sell your books on Amazon, because that would be really bad. So this was just a quick episode. We wanted just to cover this because it's been a rant. It's been making some news recently, and just, check your facts in terms of where you cited, what you've cited, and just make sure that you have proof for it and be ready to show it. And look, if I don't know that the same rules for A+ content apply to your Amazon book description, but if you get asked for evidence and they say, oh, this award is too old to cite the award, and you can pull it off, I'm sure you get a warning. I think that in terms of pulling an Amazon book, I think it's more of like the author that I sent you, the image that I sent you, like I sold 100,000 books. Well, if you only sold 10, you can't show proof for 100,000. I think that Amazon might take some more severe action. But for the majority of us, we're just going to have to show proof, and Amazon could say, no, that award's too old or whatever. Then we just make those changes. But just be aware that that's something that Amazon's looking at. I know, it's so crazy. And then
it is wild.
It is wild, right? And now we're in the middle of the October Prime days, and like I'm seeing stuff on Amazon, and I'm like, how do people get away with this crazy stuff in their descriptions for product, right? Not necessarily for books. So it's not always an even game, but we try our best to follow the rules. So thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, if you're listening to this episode on Friday or shortly thereafter, there's no editing, there's no music. We might sound out of balance. Maybe you heard dogs barking. We didn't, but that would have been fun. But we'll definitely get this one. We'll get this one modified and re-uploaded. But we just wanted to get this information out to you as quickly as we could. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.